that we can get through aid, and also donors are forthcoming as well with the aid.
Okay, unfortunately we are going to have to move on. This week, an article published by the Daily Mail caused uproar when it satirised the British Muslim community, criticising a family fun day organised by the Muslim Development and Research Foundation. The man behind the organisation, prominent scholar Shaikh Haitham Al Haddad, was in our studios early this week, and I spoke to him a little bit about this. So with more on this, here's this short report. As Big Ben strikes 10, driver will blow himself up en route to paradise, where 72 virgins await. In the event of heavy traffic, he will detonate in the Blackfriars underpass. These were just a few words written by Richard Littlejohn of the Daily Mail in an article this week. He went on to present his dismay that Muslim scholar Shaikh Haitham Al Haddad could have hired out children's theme park Legoland as a part of a family fun day. Many Muslims and non-Muslims alike were outraged by the contents of the article, with journalists displaying their thoughts on what many called a bigoted piece. Media representation of Muslims has been an issue of concern for many. Research has backed claims that this fuels anti-Islamic thought in the UK. This particular article comes amid a tirade of abuse targeted towards the London-based scholar. Speaking to him about the article, I asked him as to why he thought he was being targeted and as to what implications this type of reporting has.
They will target every single Muslim scholar who becomes a bit popular, who is a bit vocal, who might not agree with the foreign policy and some of the elements of the internal policy as well. You know that they have targeted Mufti Menk before, they have targeted many others, but they are targeting me maybe more because of number of other factors that I can conclude that maybe they have seen a personality who is not attributed to one group only. As you know, that I give lectures everywhere, up down the country. I don't mind in sitting on any platform. I'm not classified as a person who belongs to a particular group. So, and I'm trying to unite the Muslim community.
What sort of an implication do you think these types of articles have?
Well, to be honest with you, I think they will have some implications. They want to use me as an example, and then they will threaten any other scholar or any other speaker to be popular, to be vocal, to be across sectarians, to talk to everyone. They want to threaten any other scholar from doing this.
The government's Royal Charter on Press Regulation is currently in the spotlight. But will it be making any difference to the reporting on Muslims and Islamic affairs?
My own visit to the Golden Temple in Amritsar, it's one of the most beautiful and serene places.
Now joining me to discuss this is Azad Ali, Head of Community Engagement at Engage, and still with us, Usama Butt, Director of the Institute and Islamic Strategic for Social Political Affairs. Now, Azad, can I come to you first? We saw this article earlier in the week. I think many people were shocked by the language that was used. Did it shock you?
Horrified. You know, to talk about Muslims going in coaches and blowing things up, and to say that young girls will be inspected for FGM and everything else. It kind of beggars belief that something like that could be in the mainstream. There is no way something like that would be written about any other ethnic minority group.
So what's being done to tackle these sorts of things? So it's happened. I know we saw a letter today from 25 different Muslim organisations.
And non-Muslim.
And non-Muslim, actually, interfaith organisations, including the Muslim Council of Britain, Christian organisations coming together to put this letter out there. But will that have any impact?
Well, it does. It's very important that we are in society, we make it clear as people of society that this kind of language, this kind of behaviour by the press is not acceptable. Maybe legally nothing will come of it, but it's not acceptable. It's not a societal norm for a paper to talk about a community in this way, demonising entire community.
Osama, can I bring you into this? Now, in the letter that was released today, it's from a cross-section of Muslims and non-Muslims asking for an apology. Now, the Daily Mail haven't issued an apology. Rather, today we saw another article with the individual concerned, Shaikh Haitham Al Haddad. Is this the type of thing that can be accepted by Muslims here in Britain?
Well, no, but the issue is quite large in context. It's been there throughout, it's not very new. Throughout the history, there is an anti-Muslimism in Europe, and it's been thriving in UK for the last 100 years. If you pick up the Times, 100 years ago, you'll be hearing or reading kind of the same stuff about what the Turks were doing at the time and so on, the Ottoman Empire. And that needs to be tackled. I don't think an apology is going to be forthcoming. We had the cartoon incident, and there was no apology. The Pope went on offensive, calling a Muslim religion as a medieval and sort of, and equating it with something that was creating conflicts. So, and that wasn't apologized. I think what needs to be done in terms of from the Muslims themselves, there needs to be more cohesion within the Muslim community. There needs to be more cohesion within intra-Muslim and intra-Muslim relations with other Christian groups. And that needs to come a much more, that needs to be sort of shaped into a policy-making level from within the Muslim community, going upward to the parliament.
Azad, you work around these issues a lot. Now, is it legislation that's needed? We know the Royal Charter, things going on there. And what sort of impact does this have on non-Muslims and the way in which they perceive Muslims here in Britain?
Well, there are a number of things that need to happen. One is the press regulation, like you mentioned, the Royal Charter, it needs to come to fruition, which it is in the process of. But everyone that's watching this programme, I advise you, go and speak to your MP and remind them that this is a very important thing, that they, as MPs for you, they need to pressure the Prime Minister to make sure the Royal Charter goes through. The second thing is, I totally agree with what my colleague here is saying. It has been happening for centuries, but there is one fundamental difference, which is Islam is not a foreign religion in this country. Islam is a religion of the people of this country. We're citizens of this country. We're part and parcel of this country. Islam and Muslims are not brown, okay? They come from different backgrounds. So this kind of thing is not acceptable. This inferiority, them and us, has to get out of all equations that we have, all strategies that we have, and we need to engage as citizens completely.
What you're saying hooks back to what Shaikh Haitham Al Haddad said in that clip there. He said he finds that they are threatening individuals who maybe stand on cross platforms, talk to different communities, talk to different Muslims and non-Muslims. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is a big campaign by the secular extremists against Islam, religion in particular, but Islam mainly because it's more in the public domain. That's what it is. So, there is an element of that, but majority of the people in this country have no issue with where you base your moral values, and as long as you have an attitude of let live, it's fine. And that's what all Muslims are. No one is being intolerant of anyone else. And most Muslims, if you look at the mosques and everything else, they have their open days. They have actually fantastic relationship with all of their neighbours. So there is this perceived kind of problem with the Muslim community, but it is actually being driven by, first of all, people with agenda, like extreme secularists and neocons, and second by elements within the media.
Okay, unfortunately, I did want to discuss this a little more, but we have run out of time. Now, lots of different stories have been trending throughout the week. Let's have a look at some of the things you've been tweeting about.
Tweeters were united in outrage about an article released by Daily Mail reporter Richard Littlejohn called Jolly Jihadi's Boy Outing to Legoland. The article mocked the event, the sheikh organising it, and contained blatant anti-Islamic sentiment. Denmark has banned the religious slaughter of animals, including halal and kosher meat, in a move that has been called a clear interference in religious freedom. Tweeters are divided on the issue. At Sporty Muslim are called the ban ridiculous. Twitter was set alight by a picture that went viral this week of a 4-year-old Syrian boy crossing the desert by himself after having been separated from his family. One tweeter calling it the picture that broke hearts around the world. New evidence has been released, exposing Tony Blair's role as Rebecca Brooks' unofficial advisor during the phone hacking scandal. But Gabby Hinsliff tweeted that she'd just blew up the Labour Party.
Right, lots of interesting things there on Twitter. The Blair hacking scandal actually really, really interested me, just because a lot of people then questioned the Iraq inquiry, which then happened. Could that be trusted? Any thoughts on that, Azad?
Of course. Look, the media and its closeness to political establishment, especially at that level where prime ministers and everything else are that close to editors and powerful editors, it is very, very worrying. Because, we take our media to be truthful and honest and independent. And as we can see through the hacking inquiry and Leveson, that wasn't the case at all.
Well, earlier on in the clip that we saw with Shaikh Haitham Al Haddad, we saw that 1 in 3 people got their perception of Muslims from what they saw in the media. Osama?
Well, it's a, I agree, and it's not the inquiry also basically, if we go back again in time, Tony Blair and his government, Blair literally flew to Australia to get recommendation from Rupert Murdoch before he became, and so did Margaret Thatcher. So there is a collusion between the media and politics, and this is where the politicians can play an important role in terms of changing perception of not just every citizen, including the Muslims. And it's also, I think, the responsibility of the Muslims to look at those people who then go into offences against or create kind of create maybe Muslims that are either too radical, come out into the media, who give Muslims a wrong perception as well at the same time.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for this evening. I want to thank all of my guests, Sayid Aden Ali, Usama Butt and Azad Ali, for joining us. And of course, you at home for watching. Remember to keep up with the Twitter conversation using #TheReport. We'll be following stories throughout the week, so do keep tweeting. If you prefer, you can email us your thoughts on the report at islamchannel.tv, and to watch previous programmes, do go onto our YouTube channel at /IslamChannelTV. But for now, we'll leave you with some scenes from Milan, where Greenpeace activists have been protesting against the alleged use of hazardous chemicals in clothing made by luxury brands. In a report issued just before Milan Fashion Week, Greenpeace said it found hazardous substances in products from Giorgio Armani, Versace, Hermes, Louis Vuitton and many more other leading designer brands. The activists dropped a 100-square-metre banner from the ceiling of Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, reading, "Beautiful fashion, ugly lies." Do tune in next week, Tuesday, for our midweek edition of The Report. But until then, from all of us here, Assalamu alaikum.
Okay.